Chapter 6, Government Land Ownership and Use Controls. Public ownership for public use and benefit. Types of public ownership in Arizona include the following: government buildings, such as municipal, county, state, and federal. Schools, such as elementary, junior high, senior high, colleges, and universities. Parks, such as city, state, and federal. U.S. Bureau of Land Management. State of Arizona Land Trust, U.S. Forests, Indian Trust Land, Streets, and Highways. Those are the public ownerships. State Land Department. State Land Department and the system for managing trust lands. Its dual missions have been to manage the land trust and to maximize its revenues for the beneficiaries. All uses of the land must benefit the trust.
Lou.
Methods of land acquisition. 1. School sections in place. As land surveys were completed by the federal government, title to 4 sections in each townships. 2. Indemnity in lieu selections. The state was given the right to select an equal acreage of federal public domain land in indemnity in lieu of the school. 3. Quantity grant selections. Arizona selected the specified acreage of federal lands for the county bonds in each of the individual institution trusts. 4. Land exchanges. After acquiring title to the trust lands, Arizona traded many of the lands for the federal or private lands of equal value in order to relocate and block up trust land holdings. State Selection Board. Quantity grant selections and land exchange process were made by the State Selection Board, which originally consisted of the governor, state attorney general, and state land commissioner. Location and uses of state trust land. The Urban Lands Act, passed in 1981, enabled the trust to capitalize on the significant increase in raw land values that result from planning and zoning. Land use controls. Land use controls are divided into several classifications. 1. Public land use control. 2. Private land use control. 3. Public ownership of land. Police power is one of the government powers. Allows the government to adopt laws that limit private property land use through planning requirements, zoning ordinances, subdivision regulations, building codes, and environmental protection. The main purpose of police power is to protect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. Land use controls are classified into 3. 1. Public land use control. 2. Private land use control. 3. Public ownership of land. Police power allows the government to adopt laws that limit private property land use through planning requirements, zoning ordinances, subdivision regulation, building codes, and environmental protection. The main purpose of police power is to protect the public health. Community planning. Cities and counties in Arizona are required to complete community plans known as general or comprehensive plans. Community planning is a continuous process intended to guide the preservation, development, or redevelopment of a neighborhood, community, or region, and to promote the goals and ambitions of its residents. Growing smarter and growing smarter plans. Planning for land use that covers uses for housing, businesses, industry, and agriculture. Establishing standards for population density and building intensity for each land use category. Planning for circulation consisting of the general location and extent of roads, freeways, bicycle routes, and other modes of transportation, all in correlation to the land use plan. Planning for an open space acquisition and preservation that includes the following: inventory of open space areas, recreational resources, and access points, analysis of future needs, policies in managing and protecting open space areas, and strategies for acquiring additional open space and establishing new recreational. Planning for open space acquisition and preservation that includes the following: inventory of open space areas, recreational resources, and access points, analysis of future needs, policies for managing and protecting open space areas, and strategies for acquiring additional open space and establishing new recreational resources. Policies and strategies to promote a regional system of integrated or open space and recreational resources. Planning for growth areas that identify any suitable areas for planned multimodal transportations. Infrastructure expansion and improvements designed to support a variety of land uses. Environmental planning that contains analysis, policies, and strategies to address any anticipated effects on air and water quality and natural resources. Cost of development element that identifies policies and strategies that require development to pay its fair share toward the cost of additional public services needs. Water resources element that addresses the following: A, the available surface water, groundwater, and effluent suppliers. B, the demand for water that will result from future growth projected in the comprehensive plan added to existing uses. C, an analysis of how the demand for water will be served by the currently available water supplies or a plan to obtain additional necessary water supplies. Environmental Impact Statement, also known as the abbreviations of EIS. The purpose of an environmental impact statement is to gather information that will demonstrate a positive or negative impact of a proposed project on the physical, economic, and social environment of the area. The EIS, also known as Environment Impact Statement, is presented to the Planning and Zoning Commission along with the development application for approval. Zoning. Local communities and counties pass zoning ordinances to regulate use and control of land. Zoning regulations are considered restrictions rather than encumbrances because their purpose is to improve and maintain property values and provide for orderly growth of a community. These regulations usually include the following: divided property into zones, setting height and bulk of buildings, designating use of buildings, limiting population density, establishing setback lines. Those are zoning. Classifications of real property. The zones are established according to 5 general classifications: residential, commercial, industrial and manufacturing, agriculture, and raw land. Zoning concepts. Comprehensive development plan, which provides housing, recreation, and commercial development in one self-contained development, or in urban high-rise facilities where individuals can live, work, and play within the same area. A master plan community is a development consisting of 2 or more separately platted subdivisions and is subject to either 1, a master declaration of covenants, conditions, or restrictions, 2. Restrictive covenants that clearly indicate a general scheme for improvement or development of real property. Or 3. A master owners association that governs or administers the development. Cluster zoning. This type of zoning changes street patterns and reduces the size of individual lots, but provides for the same number of residents with more open recreational space and less traffic congestion than on a regular grid pattern or subdivision. Zoning terms. Non-conforming use is a building or land use that does not conform to the zoning ordinance. Any building or land use that was in existence prior to the zoning ordinance may be continued under a grandfather clause. The property cannot be remodeled, enlarged, or rebuilt if destroyed, nor can the use of the property be changed. Zoning terms. Non-conforming use. Grandfathered clause. Property prior to the zoning terms. A zoning variance represents a minor change in zoning for one specific property. A special use permit may be given by approval of the Planning and Zoning Commission for a property owner to develop a property in the public interest, as long as it does not interfere with the intent of the existing zoning. Zoning changes may be initiated by a property owner or by the local government. Zoning changes may be initiated by a property owner or by the local government. When a zoning change is requested for an individual piece of property as opposed to a change for an area, it is called spot zoning. When a zoning change is requested for an individual piece of property as opposed to a change for an area is called spot zoning. Downzoning occurs when a property zoned for higher density uses is rezoned for lower density uses, which means they're trying to control the population. A buffer zone is a strip of land that separates one land use from another. Buffer zone. Building codes. Building codes regulate building construction for safety and public welfare. Building codes. Building codes regulate building construction for safety and public welfare. A certificate of occupancy, frequently referred to as a C of O, must be issued before the building can be occupied. The use of property that continues in contravention of new zoning is a non-conforming use. A non-conforming use. Which of the following is an example of downzoning? Zoning from multiple family to single family use. A man wants to build a garage next to his home, but the side setback from the zoning does not allow the construction. He should obtain a zoning variance. A city can originate zoning and building codes to control the use of the land for the welfare of the greatest number of people through the right of police power. Buildings that were erected before the enactment of a zoning ordinance and which do not comply with the zoning limitations are called non-conforming uses. Which remedy would be most effective for a property owner whose request for rezoning has been refused by the City Planning Commission? Make a presentation to the City Council in spite of the Planning Commission. Before a person can move into a newly completed building, a certificate of occupancy must be obtained. A planning commission is generally concerned with all except construction methods. State Land Department manages the land trusts, and tries to maximize its revenues for the beneficiaries. The information included in an environmental impact statement usually includes all the following except topographical survey. Treatment of non-conforming uses under new zoning does not include immediate closure. The exercise of police power in regulating, enforcing, and controlling the character and use of a municipality's property is a zoning ordinance. A line fixed by law in front of which nothing can be built is referred to as a setback line. A property use that violates the zoning ordinance but may continue because the use predates the zoning ordinance is non-conforming use. The right of government to enact laws for the general health, welfare, and safety of the public is known as police power. Which of the following would be an example of a zoning variance? A building expected from setback requirements. Which of the following is not done under police power? Collect taxes. Zoning of a property for a specified purpose, which is different from that of surrounding properties, is spot zoning. Which of the following is not a classification of real estate under zoning? Rental. The right of enables a government to adopt building codes is police power.